One of the biggest things that changed my life had nothing to do with making more money. It was changing the people around me. And I don't mean just going out and trying to find successful friends. I mean really paying attention to who I was listening to, who I was taking advice from, and honestly, who I was allowing to influence some pretty big decisions in my life. Because looking back, some of the people who doubted me the most weren't strangers. They were people close to me. Family, relatives, even bosses I had throughout my career. And there's one rule I eventually learned from all of this that I still live by today. I'll get to that in a minute. Here's the thing. I honestly don't think most of those people were intentionally trying to hold me back, especially family. A lot of times they probably thought they were protecting me, but I eventually realized something. They were giving me advice based on their comfort level, their experience, their tolerance for risk, not mine. And that's a big difference, because when you hear those things enough, especially from people you respect or people close to you, you actually start questioning yourself. I definitely did. There were times where I thought, maybe they're right. Maybe I should just stay where I'm at. I've got a career. I've got a family. Life is good. Why would I want to mess with that? But I also remember thinking at one point, if I listen to everybody around me, I'm probably going to end up exactly where they think I should be. And maybe that's a great life for them. But is that actually the life I want? That question stuck with me. And around that same time, I started spending more time around people who were already successful. People who had built businesses, people who invested, people who had taken risks and actually done some of the things I wanted to do. And I wasn't looking for anything from them. I wasn't trying to get some secret formula for making money. It was honestly just motivating being around them. And one of the first things I noticed was how different the conversations were. I talk about an idea around certain people and immediately hear all the reasons it wouldn't work. Then I talk about an idea around somebody who had already built something successful and they'd say, okay, so how could you make that work? That's it. But think about how different those two responses are. One basically ends the conversation. The other one gets you thinking. And being around more people like that started changing the way I thought. I stopped immediately looking for all the reasons something couldn't work. I started thinking more about how could I make it work? And something else happened too. I realized successful people weren't these superheroes I had built them up to be. They screwed up too. They made bad investments. They had businesses fail. They lost money. They took chances that didn't work. They had people doubt them. They're figuring stuff out just like the rest of us. But the difference was they just kept moving. And seeing that was huge for me, because suddenly some of the things I thought were completely out of reach didn't seem quite as crazy anymore. That's when I realized how much your environment changes what feels normal. If everyone around you starts thinking something is impossible, eventually you probably will too. But when you're around people who are actually doing those things, you start asking yourself, well, why can't I? And that brings me to that rule I mentioned earlier, something I learned a long time ago and still live by today. Never take advice from someone you wouldn't trade places with. Now, before somebody takes that the wrong way, I'm not saying I need their money, I don't need their house, I don't need their car. I'm talking about the area they're giving me advice about. If somebody's giving me business advice, have they actually built a business? If they're giving me investment advice, have they actually invested successfully? If they're telling me what I should do with my career, do they have the type of career or freedom I'm trying to build? Because I gotta be honest, everybody has advice. I saw this plenty during my corporate career. You'd have somebody telling you, stay here, wait for the promotion, don't take that risk. This is the safe route. And maybe that was absolutely the right decision for them. But eventually I started asking myself, would I trade places with this person? Do I actually want to be where they are 10 or 20 years from now? And if the answer is no, then why am I letting their opinion determine what I do with my life? That doesn't mean I don't listen to people. It's actually the opposite. I want people around me who will tell me when I'm screwing up. If somebody I respect says, hey, I think that's a terrible idea and here's why, I'm listening. I don't want people who agree with everything I say. That's also not helpful either. But there's a huge difference between somebody challenging you because they want you to succeed and somebody whose automatic response to everything you do is negative. And that can be difficult when it's somebody close to you. Family, relatives, friends you've known forever. But one of the things I've learned is that just because somebody loves you doesn't mean they're the right person to advise you on every decision you're making. And it took me a long time to understand that. As I've gotten older, I've also become a lot more protective of my time and energy. I don't want to spend my time constantly explaining what I'm trying to do to somebody who's already decided it can't be done. I'd rather put that energy into actually doing it. And that's something I think about when people see these cars. They see the Ferrari, the Lambo, the Porsche, and naturally I get questions like, what do you do? How do you afford these? How long did it take? And I get it. But what you're seeing right now is the result. You're not seeing the 20 plus years before it. You're not seeing the corporate career, the saving, the investing, working on things on the side after already working all day, the projects that went nowhere, the mistakes, the things that failed, or all the time somebody told me something wasn't going to work. It took me a long time to get here, and I'm still figuring it out. Now, the truth is there are people way more successful than I am, and I actually like being around those people. It motivates me. When I meet somebody who's doing better than me, I don't look at them and think, must be nice. I'm actually curious. What are they doing differently? How are they thinking? What can I learn from them? Because there's always another level. Because when I look back at my own journey, one of the biggest things I would tell my younger self is pay attention to who's around you. Get around people who inspire you, people who challenge you, people who make you think bigger. And don't be afraid to create some distance from people who constantly make you question everything you're trying to accomplish. And be really careful who you take advice from, because sometimes the person telling you that you can't do something has never even tried it themselves. So yeah, it took me a long time to figure that out. Stay the course, keep doing your thing, and just be really careful who you allow to influence where you're going. Because looking back, changing the people around me changed a lot more than I realized at the time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.